what you're gonna do. When the end, Doreal destroys you.
Anything less would be civilized.
Hey, how are you, friends and fellow truth seekers? Welcome to the Brave New World Order podcast, straight out the catacombs of podcasting. I am Brandon St. One, and I just want to thank you so much for joining me for another episode as we explore this reality and try to just figure out what is going on. And today, we're going to just take a little break from the current events and from the Klaus Schwabs and from the Bill Gates of the world, and we're going to just look at something a little more empowering to us as humans. And we're going to explore the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. I looked at the Emerald Tablet, which is written by Hermes Trismegistus, who was most likely Thoth the Atlantean anyway. So there is a little speculation about whether or not the Emerald Tablets of Thoth were authentic, if they do exist, if they did exist, if the author was legit. There's lots of speculation about all of this stuff, and that's why I love it all. And anytime there's any type of deep esoteric or occult knowledge out there, and the person and the people who bring it forth or talk about it or explore it are always looked at kind of strange, and if they get popular or gain notoriety by any way, they usually get demonized, and that's because most likely the people in power probably use this stuff for their own gain and don't want anybody else to know about it as well. So this stuff is always there's always some controversy around it. So you got to look at it and take it for what you will. And we're going to look at the guy who translated these Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and his name was Maurice Doreal, Dr. Doreal, and he was born Claude Doggins. And this guy is very mysterious, and he definitely has some pretty wacky, out there tales that he told and experiences that he said he had. I mean, just the way that he says he translated the Emerald Tablets of Thoth is pretty interesting in itself. So we're just going to look at him and look at a little bit of what's out there about him. There's not much, but we'll look at that, and then we'll also take a look at the first Emerald Tablet, and we'll just dissect that a little bit and just see what we think about that. So thank you very much again for joining me. And if you like this, you can, subscribe so that you get all the current updates of when I drop episodes. And you could also share this. You could leave a comment. You could do all that good stuff. Helps out the show. Helps me out. I'm running this by myself, the one-man gang over here. So any help is much, much appreciated. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for any of that support that I get from you, my listeners, my lovely listeners. So you can also follow me on Twitter at BraveNWO Podcast, and also send me an email if you have any questions, comments, you have any ideas for shows, you have any thing that I missed, maybe I'm wrong about something, which is to be expected. I'm just exploring, I'm asking questions. So if you got some information that I may have missed, that I may have misspoke about, I'm not on here trying to spread disinformation. I just look at this show as like I'm hanging out, just asking questions, having fun. That's all it really is. So, and I thank you again for joining me. You can support the show by clicking the link in the show notes if you feel so inclined. If not, just come along with me on this journey, and I much appreciate that. So let's dive into the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean and Dr. Maurice Doreal, a.k.a. Claude Doggins. Let's get into what the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean are real quick, because I did an episode on the Emerald Tablet, that is written by Hermes Trismegistus. And I mentioned this earlier. And there's some confusion about the two sets of these tablets because when we talk about the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, there are 12 of them. And there is some controversy, like I mentioned earlier, about the authenticity of them. So when we speak of them, some people don't really believe in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth because of where they came from and Dr. Doreal. He was kind of shady. And that's why I like to look into this stuff, because I like to not jump to any conclusions about anything, but I do feel like there is something to these tablets. Whether he took them from Lovecraft, because there's, I'll talk about that a little bit coming up. There's some speculation whether he forged some stuff from Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft. If you don't know who that is, he's an author way back in the early, I think in the 1800s, and he wrote, a bunch of crazy, multi-dimensional about beings, and Cthulhu is H.P. Lovecraft. Just really deep stuff, and a lot of people who are into the occult knowledge and shit like that reference Lovecraft, and he was into that stuff. I think it's pretty obvious from a lot of his writings, and some people speculate that he had some deep knowledge of stuff and he inserted it into a lot of his stories. So that's also something to keep in the back of your mind too when we talk about Doreal, because if he did rip off Lovecraft, and Lovecraft could have been actually dropping some knowledge into his stories, so some of this stuff could have some truths woven in, and that's I just like to explore also. I just wanted to get that out of the way. But the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, that the knowledge that's in that, most people who are into Hermeticism think that is legit. I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong, I'd like to hear from you, because I'm just exploring all this, and this is what I've come across so far. There's so many more layers to dive into. And I'd love to actually have some conversations with people who know about this stuff a lot more than I do. But for now, since it's just me, I'm just diving in and digging and sharing it with you, my lovely listeners. So I just wanted to get that out of the way about how there is some controversy and some confusion about the Emerald Tablet and the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So this episode and a few more, because I'm going to go through all of the tablets, and there's 12 of them. So we're going to do a whole series on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. But first, we have to look at who was the man that translated them, who claimed to have translated these 12 tablets. And his name was Dr. Maurice Doreal. But that was not his real name. He was born Claude Doggins in the 1800s, 1898 to be specific. And somewhere along the line, he changed his name to Dr. Doreal. There's no documentation that I can find of him actually being a doctor, and that's why this man is kind of shady. And a lot of people look at the Emerald Tablets of Thoth as being something fake and fabricated by this man, and maybe like a combination of a different writings and mushed into one thing, and he created this fantastic story. And so that's why there's always a little controversy with anything occultism and esoteric. But I like what the words say. I like what it says, so that's why I wanted to dive into it. But we got to look into this man and what he was about. He definitely seems shady. I don't know. He started getting real deep once he created what was called the Brotherhood of the White Temple. And he created this in Denver, and it was based off of like theosophy and different occultism, different occult teachings. And he created this Brotherhood of the White Lodge, and he moved to Denver, and they set up this place, gathering place, and they started talking about nuclear war and started getting really into that kind of stuff and away from more of the occult theology, philosophy, I guess you would say. So, and this man also claimed in 1931 that he met two Atlanteans that took him into Mount Shasta in California, and they showed him race living inside the Earth, and that's where like the Lemuria theories and Hollow Earth theories and different stuff like that come from. I don't know if they come from him, but he definitely built on him, and he popularized a lot of the stuff because he got a lot of notoriety around this time in the 1950s and 1940s. He was kind of popular. He did like Life magazine and Time, I think, did a story on him, so he was kind of known. And then he went off the edge and started talking about serpent people and all that stuff. So, I think this all ties into like my previous episode about cataclysm chronology. If you haven't listened to that, definitely check it out. And that's why I like all this stuff, because I think that it all ties in. And I think when you talk about serpent people, and you talk about the Anunnaki, and you talk about, Sitchin with, what's the planet called there? Nibiru coming around and the Anunnaki, I think that it's all tied together, but it's not from outer space. It has to do with these resets, and has to do with our current elite overlords. They're still the same people that go all the way back, but they're not aliens. They're like, there's races, and that's what they are. And I think this is what this comes from. Like, Thoth was part of this Anuna, and I think he liked humanity more than the rest of them, and he tries to guide us. And I think this is where these tablets come from. I think this is where Hermes comes from. Hermes Trismegistus, Apollonius of Tyana, possibly is an incarnation of Thoth. Also, Jesus may have been Enoch. All these people may have been an incarnation of the same benefactor trying to guide humanity. And that's why I talk about this stuff a lot, because I really think it's all connected. I really do. All the ancient texts and all the ancient stories, all the biblical stories, I think it's all telling us the same thing, and we just have to figure it out and connect all the dots. And there's a lot of dots to connect, and it never ends. So, all right, back to Dr. Doreal. Like I said, there's not much known about him. He claimed a bunch of fantastical things. The most of, the biggest one being that he translated these 12 tablets because he was authorized by the White Lodge masters, the keepers of this knowledge. He was able to go, out of anybody, of all the people in the world, he was able to go and obtain these tablets to translate them. So you can take that for what you will. Take it for what you will. Think about it. Think about if you think he's shady or not. Do a little more research into him. I don't know. What I like is the tablets themselves. And he claimed that they're 36,000 years old. And that goes way back to Atlantis, I guess. But I'm not so sure about that. All the timeline stuff, you could take that, give or take. I think the timeline might be off. I think the Atlantis timeline might not be 100% accurate when you start lining up that cataclysm chronology that I went over in one of my previous episodes. But that doesn't really matter. What matters is the words, and how the words speak a powerful meaning. They seem to. They seem to have a power to them when you read them out loud. Certain vibration to them. I know that sounds a little kind of woo-woo, whatever, but that's what we're here for, right? This is what this show's all about. So now that we just did a little quick look at Dr. Doreal, because I don't want to dive into him much. There's not really much on him, and it doesn't really matter. I just want to look at the tablets themselves. So let's take a look at tablet number 1. And I'm going to give you a listen to it. I read it, and you guys can listen for yourselves. But first, I just want to explain real quick what it's about. It's about Thoth explaining his origin story and where he comes from, Atlantis. And in Undal, there's a great temple that still stood after Atlantis was destroyed. And then, once that was destroyed, they fled, him and his people. They gathered as many as they could, and they fled, and they landed up in the land of Kem, which is Egypt. It was referred to as Kem back then. And when they arrived in Egypt, he had to display his power and show them with his staff. And he displayed a vibration and a light, and they cowered to it. And like I said just a minute ago about the connection to the cataclysm chronology and the Anuna arriving to people, to us humans, smaller and have no technology, and then they come down, or they come up. The Anuna come up and display their power, and then the people back then looked at them as gods and worshipped them and all that stuff. So this, just pay attention to that. It's very similar to what I was speaking of in the Cataclysm chronology. It's all connected, folks. Just trying to hammer that in, how these dots just need to be connected, and the story of man is being told from different point of views throughout time, different religions, different occult and hermetic texts. It's all there. Just all the dots just need to be connected. That's all. So if I sound redundant, that's why. But the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, number 1, is him explaining Atlantis and how Atlantis fell and how they ended up in the land of Kem, which is modern-day Egypt. So if you hear Kem, that's referring to Egypt, where after Atlantis fell, him and his people ended up, and they took over and displayed themselves as gods, pretty much. So take a listen to Emerald Tablet number 1, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope that it resonates with you like it does with me. So take a listen. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Emerald Tablet number 1. The History of Thoth the Atlantean. I, Thoth the Atlantean, master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king, magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti, set down for the guidance of those that are to come after, these records of the mighty wisdom of great Atlantis. In the great city of Kior, on the island of Undal, in a time far past, I began this incarnation. Not as the little men of the present age did the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Kem shall know me no more. But in a time yet unborn will I rise again, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Then beware, O men of Kem, if ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into the darkness of the caves from whence ye came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north or the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon ye. Remember and heed my words, for surely will I return again and require of thee that which ye guard. I, even from beyond time and from beyond death will I return, rewarding or punishing as ye have requited your trust. Great were my people in the ancient days, great beyond the conception of the little people now around me, knowing the wisdom of old, seeking far within the heart of infinity knowledge that belonged to earth's youth. Wise were we with the wisdom of the children of light who dwelt among us. Strong were we with the power drawn from the eternal fire. And of all these, greatest among the children of men was my father, Thoth, keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light who dwelt within the temple and the races of men who inhabited the 10 islands. Mouthpiece, after the 3, of the dweller of Unal, speaking to the kings with the voice that must be obeyed. Grew I there from a child into manhood, being taught by my father the elder mysteries, until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, until it burst into a consuming flame, not desired, I, but the attainment of wisdom, until on a great day the command came from the dweller of the temple that I be brought before him. Few there were among the children of men who had looked upon that mighty face and lived, for not as the sons of men are the children of light when they are not incarnate in a physical body. Chosen was I from the sons of men, taught by the dweller, so that his purposes might be fulfilled, purposes yet unborn in the womb of time. Long ages I dwelt in the temple, learning ever and yet ever more wisdom, until I, too, approached the light emitted from the great fire. Taught me he the path to Amenti, the underworld where the great king sits upon his throne of might. Deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. Free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Far to the stars I journeyed until space and time became as naught. Then, having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men, and there found I greater mysteries, and was glad. For only in the search for truth could my soul be stilled, and the flame within be quenched. Down through the ages I lived, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death, and return again in the light of life. Gradually from the kingdoms of Atlantis, past waves of consciousness that had been one with me, only to be replaced by spawn of a lower star. In obedience to the law, the word of the master grew into flower. Downward into darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans, until at last in his wrath arose from his Agwanti the dweller, speaking the word, calling the power. Deep in earth's heart the sons of Amenti heard, and hearing directed the changing of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting, using the logos, until that great fire changed its direction. Over the world then broke the great waters, drowning and sinking, changing earth's balance until only the temple of light was left standing on the great mountain of Undal, still rising out of the water. Still there were who were living, saved from the rush of the fountains. Called to me then the master, saying, Gather ye together my people, take them by the arts ye have learned of far across the waters, until ye reach the land of the hairy barbarians, dwelling in caves of the desert. Follow there the plan that ye know of. Gathered I then my people, and entered the great ship of the master. Upward we rose into the morning. Dark beneath us lay the temple. Suddenly over it rose the waters, vanished from earth, until the time appointed was the great temple. Fast we fled toward the sun of the morning, until beneath us lay the land of the children of Chem. Raging, they came with cudgels and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. Then raised I my staff, and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks as fragments of stone of the mountain. Then I spoke to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying we were children of the sun and its messengers. Cowed I them by my display of magic science, until at my feet they groveled when I released them. Long dwelt we in the land of Chem, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the Master, who while sleeping yet lives eternally, I sent from me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom might rise again in her children. Long time dwelt I in the land of Chem, doing great works by the wisdom within me. Upward grew into the light of knowledge the children of Chem, watered by the rains of my wisdom. Blasted I then a path to Amenti, so that I might retain my powers, living from age to age a son of Atlantis, keeping the wisdom, preserving the records. Great grew the sons of Chem, conquering the people around them, growing slowly upwards in soul force. Now for a time I go from among them into the dark halls of Amenti, deep in the halls of the earth, before the lords of the powers, face to face once again with the dweller. Raised I high over the entrance, a doorway, a gateway, leading down to Amenti. Few there would be with courage to dare it, few passed the portal to dark Amenti. Raised over the passage, I, a mighty pyramid, using the power that overcomes earth force. Deep and yet deeper placed I, a force house or chamber, from it carved I, a circular passage reaching almost to the great summit. There, in the apex, set I, the crystal, sending the ray into the time-space, drawing the force from out of the ether, concentrating upon the gateway to Amenti. Other chambers I built and left vacant, to all seeming, yet hidden within them are the keys to Amenti. He who in courage would dare the dark realms, let him be purified first by long fasting. Lie in the sarcophagus of stone in my chamber, then to reveal I to him the great mysteries. Soon shall he follow to where I shall meet him. Even in the darkness of earth shall I meet him. I, Thoth, Lord of Wisdom, meet him and hold him and dwell with him always. Built I the great pyramid, patterned after the pyramid of earth force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it I built my knowledge of magic science, so that it might be here when again I return from Amenti. I, while I sleep in the halls of Amenti, my soul, roaming free, will incarnate, dwell among men in this form or another. Emissary on earth am I of the dweller, fulfilling his commands so man might be lifted. Now return I to the halls of Amenti, leaving behind me some of my wisdom. Preserve ye and keep ye the command of the dweller. Lift ever upwards your eyes toward the light. Surely in time ye are one with the Master. Surely by right ye are one with the Master. Surely by right ye are one with the All. Now I depart from ye. Know my commandments, keep them and be them, and I will be with you, helping and guiding you into the light. Now before me opens the portal, go I down into the darkness of night. Alright, so that was the Emerald Tablet of Thoth, number 1. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'm going to be posting all of them, all the tablets for you to enjoy, and we'll do a little, analysis. We'll try to explain them, try to figure out what they're all about. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, you know what to do. You can like this, you can subscribe, you can share it with people. I'd love that. That's the best thing you can do for the show if you like it. And if you also want to support the show, you can click the link in the show notes. And I am forever grateful for all of you that do that. And I'm forever grateful for all of you that just joined me on this journey. So thank you once again so much for joining the Brave New World Order. I'm Brandon St. One. Question everything. Think for yourself. Stay positive. And I will check in. Peace out. Much love.